Welcome to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where tour players, legends, and the top instructors in the game share their stories, insights, and playing lessons. Join Chris every Tuesday night as he talks with the greats of the game. Tonight's show is sponsored by TaylorMade Golf, the PGA Tour Superstore, 2 Under, Golf Pride, Strixon Cleveland Golf. Your best performance starts with the right golf ball. Sun Mountain Golf Bags, Finn Scooters, making the game more fun. Edel Golf, hit it, flip it, dial it in, and the Macklemore Club experience, live above the clouds. Now, here's your host, Chris Mascaro.
Good evening, folks, and thank you for coming back and joining me on Next on the Tee. I'm your host, Chris Mascaro. Tonight, I've got a great foursome of guests that I'm looking forward to sharing with you. I've got one of the great all-time instructors of the game. I've got a player who, after Ben Hogan, might have the most sought-after swing in the history of the game. I've got a Champions Tour player who is a University of Texas Hall of Famer, and one of the all-time great legends of the game, both on the course and behind the mic, will be with me as well. We'll talk about who those guys are in just a moment. But before we do that, I want to thank all of you for keeping the show inside the top 5 of the Podcast Magazine Hot 50 list in the month of August. Your support has just been tremendous. Next on the Tee is currently ranked number 3 in the Hot 50, our football show Thursday Night Tailgate, right behind it at number 4. Our goal, obviously, is to leapfrog both shows into the top spots, so please continue to vote, and you can do so daily by going online to podcastmagazine.com/Hot50. We are so close. Your votes are going to make the difference. I can't thank you enough for taking a moment out of your day to support both shows. It means a great deal to me. Okay, on to tonight's show. First up is going to be our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. Tonight, TP and I are going to get deep into the Tour Championship and the gaggle of additional players who have announced that they're headed over to LIV Golf now. We are headed into a very uncertain off-season, so looking forward to having TP back with me and talking through all of that. He'll join me here in just a few minutes. Following him, I'm going to get a return visit from former tour player Tom Purtzer. And like I say, after Ben Hogan, Tom's swing may be the most sought after in tour history. We're going to talk about that. We'll get his thoughts on LIV Golf. And if Greg Norman had come to him back in the 80s with a 7 or 8 figure check to join a LIV tour, what would Tom have done? Plus, we'll go back into his playing career and talk about the final group that he was in with Jack Nicklaus at the 1977 Tournament of Champions. He'll be with me about 25 minutes from now. Following him, I'll be joined by Champions Tour pro Bob Estes. Bob played his college golf at the University of Texas and was inducted into their Hall of Honor. So a great player in Texas history for sure. We'll also talk about his season on the Champions Tour and their march to the Charles Schwab Cup. Get his thoughts on LIV as well. Plus, what makes Bob one of the best putters out there on the Champions Tour? Get a playing lesson for you. He'll join me a little bit later on in the hour. Then we're going to round out tonight's show with a visit from Bruce Devlin. Bruce is one of the all-time great players on the PGA Tour. Won 8 times from 1964 to 1972. We'll talk about some of those great wins. Plus, he did a great job as a broadcaster as well for NBC and ESPN. He's got his own podcast now. So a lot to get into with Bruce. He'll join me about an hour from now. So there you have it, folks. More great stories, tips, and information are coming your way tonight on this edition of Next on the Tee. And as always, thank you so much for tuning in and taking the journey with me tonight. Before we get started, I want to remind you again about our friends over at the Macklemore. As you guys know, my buddies and I were there again this year for our annual golf trip. Even better the second time around. Everything about what they have up there is first class. The accommodations are great. The practice facility is outstanding, got even better when they opened up their new Himalayas putting course. The on-premise restaurant called The Craig is outstanding food and service. And to say the course is spectacular is just an understatement. Can't say enough great things about it, folks. Go online to themacklemore.com to see how spectacular it is for yourself. The golf course is co-designed by our good friends Bill Bergen and Reese Jones. And our friend and PGA Tour caddy and one of my guests a couple of months ago, Kip Henley, said outside of Pebble Beach, it's the most beautiful 18th hole he's ever seen. Golf Digest agreed, naming it the best finishing hole in America since 2000, and Links Magazine doubled down on that, naming it one of the top 10 finishing holes in all of golf. See why we're all saying such great things about the place by going online to themacklemore.com. And folks, this segment of the show is brought to you by TaylorMade. Golf is an interesting game because the better you hit the ball, the fewer shots you have to hit. That means the better you hit the ball, the less golf you actually have to play. That's why TaylorMade made their all-new Stealth Irons. TaylorMade Stealth Irons feature a catback design with a 3D toe wrap designed to help deliver increased distance through the bag and more forgiveness on those occasional, you know what, maybe not so occasional, less than perfect shots. The result, though, is better shots more often, so you get to have more fun more often. So if you're the kind of golfer who wants to play less golf more often, try the all-new Stealth Irons from TaylorMade. Beyond driven. Okay, on to my first guest, who is our resident director of instruction, Tom Patri. If you want to take your game to the next level this year, folks, go see Tom at Farmington Country Club up in Charlottesville, Virginia. If you're in that Virginia, West Virginia, or D.C. areas, take that short drive and go meet him there. If you can't meet him in person, download the V1 video app and send Tom videos of your golf swing. He can help get you dialed in right there through the app. Please check out his website, tompatri.com. Give him a follow on Twitter and Instagram at tompatrigolf. And don't forget to subscribe to his YouTube channel, where you can watch over 300 free video playing lessons. Tom is also a member of the Titleist Leadership Advisory Board, and it always does my heart good to have him here with me on Next on the Tee. Hey, TP, how are you, my friend? Hey, TP, how are you, my friend?
Christy, boy!
Tom Patri, how are you?
Turn off Law and Order and to come on the show tonight. I couldn't see the end of the show. And then I heard your introduction. Purtzer, Estes, and Devlin and Patri. Ferrari, Excel. It just doesn't, it's not right.
I'm telling you, every great lineup has to have a leadoff hitter. You're my guy. You kidding me? You're my Pete Rose. Base hit, let's get this thing going.
You got three guys hitting 400 and a guy hitting 199.
I don't think that's true. I think you're a solid 300 hitter.
Oh, Jesus. You're delusional. Let's get on to the next thing. Come on. Seriously.
All right, Tom. Since last we spoke, a whole slew of guys have jumped ship and headed over to LIV Golf. Right? We all knew that Cam Smith was going to do. He was going to take the claret jug and away he would go. So that happened. Joaquin Neiman, Harold Varner III, Cameron Tringali, Mark Leishman, Aaron Ben, Lahari, and Bernd Wiesberger. Those guys all go now. So your take, where, I mean, are we going to see more of this happen? Are we going to, once we get past what we got the President's Cup left in this tour season, after that, is it going to keep happening? What are your thoughts?
I think we should give them every time somebody wants to go, we should give them a going away party. Give them a party. I don't know. Fire up the cake, the
balloon,
cake and the ice cream, and the whole thing. Balloons, the whole thing. Have a clown. Do the whole thing. Well, you don't really need a clown because you don't really need a clown because you have Greg Norman, so you don't really need a clown. Just bring Greg.
But I mean, seriously, this is a steady stream. Is it going to stop?
No, you know why it's not going to stop, Greg? Chris, because Greg Norman and the LIV Tour and the Saudis have this endless resource called money. And I guess what we found out in the past couple of months is that money is more important than legacy to this generation, which is a sad statement in itself, but it seems to be the propensity of why these guys make the decision. And as long as the Saudis have a bottomless pit and they want to keep this show alive, they're going to attract a certain amount of guys to go do that. So it's not going to go away. But I go back to what I've always said in the discussion. Who's watching it? I don't even know where to tune in. Who cares? And other than, I guess, other than Dustin Johnson, I can't think of anybody that's gone that I really would turn the TV on to watch anyway. So,
no Cam Smith?
Have a nice trip, guys. Well, Cam Smith obviously hurt because me with short game. I enjoyed watching Cam Smith, obviously, right? how does a guy at that point in his career, having won the Tournament Players Championship, having won Claret Jug, really starting to entrench himself in golf history, and still plenty young enough to do more damage and create a really incredible legacy for himself going forward, he's now made himself basically to the general public invisible. Really. I mean, he's gone from being in the spotlight to being invisible. Are you tuning in to watch it?
No, but let me ask
you this one question. When they did the shotgun start and he's in group 3B, are we watching that? Are we watching 3B?
It's must-see TV. Come on, are you kidding me?
Oh my
no, but here,
God,
but hear me out on this, right? Let's play devil's advocate. Let me play devil's advocate for a minute. You're Cam Smith. You're 29 years old. You just won both of those big tournaments. Right? You are exempt currently. You're exempt to play the Open Championship until you're 60 years old. And you've got an exemption to play in the other majors for the next 5 years. Greg Norman just stroked me a check for, I don't know that we've heard, 100 million, 150 million, whatever it was. And I can play in the tournaments that matter for at least the next 5 years. And like I say, the Open Championship forever. And I'm 29, and chances are I may just win another one of those major championships to reset, the 5-year cycle again. We'll start it over, and now I got another 5 years. Why wouldn't I go?
So you're designating the only tournaments that matter as the U.S. Open, the British, the Masters, and the PGA, correct?
We'll throw in the Players, the Memorial, and Bay Hill, but essentially correct.
So
let's be honest. Who's going to remember who won the Rocket Mortgage Classic 5 years from now? Nobody.
No, I get what you're saying. But let me ask you a question. It goes back to what I think one of the real things that struck me in this whole conversation in the last couple of weeks was what Tiger said. What is their incentive practice? Do they work as hard going forward, preparing for live events and playing in live events as they were preparing to play in any event on the PGA Tour? Okay? Are they really working the countless hours they work because they were playing against fields that were so deep and so strong that they knew they had to be at their ultimate best every week? And does the guaranteed money, and we don't know the answer yet, does the guaranteed money have them sitting on their ass or taking time off or taking days off or taking reps off? And are they as sharp a year from now as they were in their prime on the PGA Tour? We don't know the answer yet, but we've seen money being thrown at guys in the National Football League and the NBA, in Major League Baseball, cause them to sit on their ass a bit. Will it be a similar situation here?
Right. I don't know, Tom. I think you said it right tonight and a few other times that you've been on the show. I don't think legacy means all that much to this generation of players. Not as much as the money does. And this is generational money now. This isn't just, I'm going to do okay. This is generational kind of money that we're talking about here. On a low end, these guys are going to make, what, $125 a week if they just show up to play the tournament? On top of which, on a low end, what are they signing these guys to? 25 million, 50 million, 75, right? So we're talking about that generational money. And if I can still play in the majors until the PGA of America, until the RNA, until Augusta National, and until the USGA comes out and say, you guys are no longer qualified to play in any of our events. So if I can earn my way on there, I already have. I'm Dustin Johnson. I'm Cam Smith. I'm Brooks Koepka. I can still play those and potentially reset the clock by winning another one. I mean, I don't think this generation cares about, hey, I won the fairly ridiculous Open and the, oh, by the way, Invitational. They care about winning majors and making money. And I think that's just where the game is right now. And I don't even think the majority of the players on the PGA Tour care about those events as well. I mean, Brooks Koepka is case in point. He didn't care about winning anything that wasn't a major. And I think that's why the PGA Tour forces players in the past to play in 15 events. Now it's up to 20, because if they didn't make them play in a minimum amount of tournaments, they wouldn't. And I think that's been that way for a long time.
and it's certainly prevalent now, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. And I'm not sure that that's going to change anytime soon.
I don't think there's any doubt in my mind anymore, Chris, after what I've seen the last 3 months, that this generation, and it saddens me. I truly mean it saddens me. This generation puts money ahead of titles. I mean, Scotty Scheffler said something really interesting. He said something about money this week at the Tour Championship and said, I play golf to win golf tournaments. The money's a byproduct. I can remember playing professional golf for 8 years, and I never really once looked at the purse breakdown before I started playing the tournament. I never looked at the purse breakdown. I didn't really even know how much we were playing for. I was trying to win a golf tournament, and I was always trying to finish as high as I could and beat as many players as I could that week. And obviously that's not the case. I mean, that's not the case here at all. They've proven that to us. That's not the case. So I think that's an extremely sad statement for the sport.
Tom, here's something that struck me over the weekend. And with the Tour Championship being here in Atlanta, I went out to the tournament. And on Friday is when it was essentially confirmed that Cam Smith was going over to LIV Golf. We knew it going in, but that's when we heard it for sure. So I made sure that I went to the first tee on Saturday when Cam was going to be introduced and about to tee off. I wanted to be there for his tee time. I expected to hear, at a minimum, a smattering of boos, but instead, when they announced his name, the crowd went crazy. And then I followed him for several holes, and when he would make a birdie, people erupted in cheering and clapping for him and all that sort of stuff. And what stuck with me is, I don't think the fans care about these guys going over to LIV or not. Are you surprised that there wasn't any outrage about Cam and him leaving, and that the fans didn't boo him at least a little bit for leaving and going over to LIV? Instead, the opposite seemed to be true. They cheered him for doing it.
I think with the golf IQ, the American public unfortunately has proven that the golf IQ across the board is not as high as we might hope it would be. And I think golf is a microcosm of the society. And I think the society puts money ahead of a lot of things. I think you look at the divorce rate in this country, look at, the division in this country right now, look at how people, use racist slurs in this country. I think we're in a bad place. I think golf is a microcosm of that, and it's a sad statement, and I'm going to get a lot of pushback and a lot of tweets and yells on that one. And people will obviously take shots at me, but, I'm a loyalist, Chris. You know that. If you've learned anything about me, you probably learned that in the last couple of years. And I have a strong ethical and moral compass. And I think that where we are as a nation and as an individual group of people is not in a good place. And I think we're just seeing that across the board.
Tom, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about something that's a little more positive about all of this stuff. And something that we've talked about the last several times you've come on the show, we've championed a bit, is that now a part of the changes are the non-exempt players are going to get $5,000 if they don't make the cut to help offset expenses. So of all of these changes, at least that sounds like something really good that's about to happen for those guys.
I think you're right. At first, it came across as kind of a strange thing to me because it's always been, play or go home. My generation was, you play or you go home, and you miss a cut, and tough luck, man. Move on. It was a dog eat dog. You kind of learn certain things, and if the Tour can afford to do that for the non-exempt player, and by the way, I'm not sure if $5,000 a week is enough. If you're doing that to help them defer their actual expenses that week, I'm not sure if that's enough in today's day and age. I'd have to look at that hard and really break that down. I remember, I played a long time ago when I was playing. It was probably $3 a week back then, and that's a million years ago. So I'm not sure if 5 is the right number, but it's something, right? So yeah, I like that change. I think that's a good change.
Tom, getting back to the Tour Championship, and how big of a win, not just for Rory McIlroy, but for the PGA Tour, was it that Rory won it?
I think it was a setup. this. I think that was, Miracle on 34th Street. It almost seems too perfect, doesn't it? It almost seems like, hey,
it really does.
Lay down. We'll send you $6 million in the mail at the table. Just lay down so Rory wins. No, all kidding aside, was it good? It was great. It was obviously the right guy at the right time, and nothing against Scottie Scheffler. I think Scottie Scheffler is a incredible talent, an incredible ambassador for the PGA Tour, and just the kind of person you really want to root for. He says all the right things at the right times, almost. But I love everything out of his mouth, and I love the thing about hasn't bought a new car, still driving around the same SUV. But Rory winning in Atlanta was a big deal. It was at the right person at the right time. It was huge. It was huge wins for the tour. To kind of shut some people up, I guess.
And speaking of ambassadors for the game, how great was it after Rory won it? He walks behind the 18th green, goes over to Scottie Scheffler's father, gives him a hug, says, "I'm sorry," and then hugs his mom and all of that. How great was that to see Rory, as what is now the guy who's the face of the PGA Tour, win like that, be humble like that, and go over and greet Scottie's parents?
Yeah, and I think that makes me think just how sad. I used that word too many times tonight, but there were a lot of relationships out there that were great relationships that are broken now because of where guys have gone and what they've said and the sides they've taken. With the exception of a few guys we know weren't particularly well liked. Harold Varner was very well liked. Very, very well liked out there. And, he made a statement about the money really would change his life and change things he was able to do for his foundation. And I almost had to kind of take a step back and listen to that one. And it's the first time somebody admitted for the first time they went strictly for the money. And these are my reasons why. But there's a lot of relationships that have been fractured terribly. And there's a lot of guys that have very ill feelings towards each other now that, again, it's a sad commentary for the game, but Rory's a class act, obviously, and what he did in addressing Scottie's family there was very classy. That's what golf's supposed to be. You work your ass off for 4 days, you play hard against each other, but somebody beats you, you tip the cap and say, "Hey, well done, you got me," and let's go on to next week.
We have the President's Cup coming up in a couple of weeks, and that event really has never had the juice that the Ryder Cup has. But how great of an event would it be if we had next year, a few years from now, the PGA Tour players versus the LIV Tour players?
Talk about juice. That would be fun.
We probably need some bodyguards, WWF staff, and no sharp objects allowed. How about we can play Patrick Reed against Rory McIlroy in the first match. We might have to separate him on the third green. Talking about a made-for-TV spectacle that everybody would tune into, and certainly, I would hope that if that ever happened, which I doubt it would, but if that ever happened, that both sides, especially the American side, would really take it extremely seriously and not be yucking it up or high-fiving anybody or, giving them I would want that to be a dog-eat-dog, but that would certainly drive some TV ratings, wouldn't it?
Indeed. LIV guys come out in all black.
Who are your two captains? Who are your two captains for that, Chris?
Well, I would think Greg Norman would have to be the guy for the LIV Tour, and I'm not really sure who would be a good captain to be on the PGA Tour side outside of obviously Tiger.
I think after some of the comments Freddie made, he'd be great.
Yeah, there you go.
You could have Greg Norman come out dressed as Darth Vader, and Freddie could be Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
TP, I want to get a playing lesson from you before I let you go. One of those 300 great free lessons that you've added to your YouTube channel. And the one I want to talk about tonight is tension in our golf swings, which can destroy motion. And at a time when we're all looking to get more clubhead speed and swing out of our shoes, talk about how gripping the club harder and tension in our bodies will actually result in the opposite happening.
Yeah, I mean, when people make swing changes, Chris, during a lesson, the recreational player, they change their grip, or you change something in their backswing, or they get hyper focused in one area of their golf swing. The normal propensity is to get a little tense without even realizing. And I don't just address grip pressure, but I mean your upper extremities, all parts of your upper extremities, your wrists, your hands, your elbows, your shoulders, your neck, your upper back. People think they look like they're almost robotic, and they look like they're like the Tin Man. And obviously that's going to really impede range of motion, a free-flowing golf swing. As beautiful, for example, as Tom Purtzer, who swung with beautiful freedom in his golf swing. Freddie, VJ, Ernie L, Don January, Gene Littler, Julius Boros. Those are all swings that people should emulate as far as freedom of motion. And with that vehicle we call YouTube nowadays, you can go back and watch these guys play a golf club. And I'm a big visual guy, and I like to put things up on the screen for people and show them examples. Not that they have to swing like a tour player or be robotic or try to be somebody, but just the overall premise of freedom in the golf swing is sure going to make their life a lot easier.
Tom, before I let you go, remind our listeners how they can stay up to date with all the great things you're doing and follow you, whether it's on your website, on social media, or on your YouTube channel.
First of all, all the typical places. The website is just tompatri.com, and everything you need to know about what I'm doing, where I'm going, and when I'm going to be there is there, as well as some bio and background. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they're all platforms that I'm a part of. But out of all those places, my favorite place for people to go to know what's going on is right here with you every other week. It's how many shows is this now for us? Is 7,432 shows, Chris?
I think that's about right. I think that's close. I think really the number is 66 tonight, but it feels like that's the right number.
It's unbelievable. But, I mean, this is the most fun I have every other week coming on with you. The things you do for us and the people you bring on. Look at this lineup tonight. Purtzer, Estes, and Bruce Devlin. Bruce Devlin is an icon in world golf. I mean, he's just one of the great players of all time. Bob Estes puts the ball like, well, he's got to be in the top, maybe be in the top 5 all time with the flat stick. So he's certainly going to provide your viewers with some insight tonight. And Tom Purtzer, I mean, I don't know who swings the golf club more beautifully in our generation. He's right up there with a Freddie or with an Ernie, that kind of motion, just absolutely gorgeous. And the guy I always love to watch. So you bring these people to us every week, and for that, we sure will be really grateful, man. That's why we should tune in to hear you all the time.
I appreciate you saying that very much, Tom. It means a great deal to me, my friend. Stay safe out there. All the best to you and the missus, and I look forward to catching up with you again in a couple of weeks.
Thanks, Chris. Tell Purtz I said hi.
I will absolutely do it. That is the great Tom Patri, folks. Patri is the spelling of his last name. TomPatri.com is the website. Tom Patri Golf on Instagram and Twitter, and look him up on YouTube, folks. Got to subscribe to that channel. Why wouldn't you? 300 playing lessons for free from one of the top instructors in the history of the game. Doesn't get any better than that, folks, and his lessons are outstanding. Stuff that you can take to the practice tee with you. Practice range, remember, short game, short game, short game. Tom's got it all right there for you. You just take your phone with you, watch it, and then repeat what he does, and your game is going to get infinitely better. And he's just an outstanding human being and one of my favorite people on the planet. And I look forward to catching up with Tom again in a couple of weeks. Okay, before I get to my next guest, Tom Purtzer, I want to remind you about a couple of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at LIV Golf. Is your driver adjustable? Of course it is. How about your irons? Didn't think so. LIV's new SMS irons give you adjustability in an iron to match your swing. These new irons come with 3 weights lined up across the back of the club. By moving the heavy weight to the heel, center, or toe location, you can match the club to your swing instead of vice versa. The result? Total control of the club face for more distance and accuracy. Your irons can't do this. Check them out online by going to adelgolf.com. I also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Squares Golf. Are you like me, always considering new golf equipment, maybe a new driver? Well, let me reset your thinking because I discovered Squares golf shoes. The patented Squares toe provides balance, stability, and a wider base for increased connection to the ground, effectively increasing your swing speed by 2.2 miles per hour and an average of 9 yards of distance. Independent testing proves it. That's right. It's proven in science. Go to squares.com, get the Squares 30-day money-back guarantee, and use promo code DISTANCE to get $20 off. Remember, distance comes from swing speed, and swing speed comes from your connection to the ground. Squares, the distance golf shoe.
Okay, now back and next on the tee with me is PGA Tour legend Tom Purtzer. Tom's become a wonderful friend of the show over the last couple of years. Let me remind you about his background. He's from Des Moines, Iowa, played his college golf at Arizona State from 1970 to 73, and turned pro later that year in 73. Got his first PGA Tour victory at the 1977 Glen Campbell Los Angeles Open by one stroke over Lanny Watkins. Tom won 5 times on the PGA Tour and 4 more times out on the Champions Tour. In all, he has 15 professional wins. And as most of you all know, Tom has always been known as having one of the sweetest swings in the history of the PGA Tour. And it's a huge thrill to have him back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Tom, thanks for coming back on the show.
Great, Chris. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you. And hey, Tom Patri passes along his hello.
You know, TP is worth the price of admission. I love listening to your show, especially TP's. You know, he's so spot on just about everything he says, and it's just fun to listen to you guys banter back and forth. And he's got great knowledge, that's for sure.
Yes, he does.
Tom,
it's been about 6 months since we got to have you as part of the show. What's been going on with you so far this summer?
Not much. I did went up to Steamboat Springs, did a little golf school with my brother. He's teaching up there this summer. You got to get out of Phoenix in the summer. It's like so bad. 110 today, and I don't know. It's brutal, but I've kind of ventured off of the golf thing. I'm taking a real estate school, so got a couple buddies that have talked to me about doing that. So, you know, I'm old enough now to where I'm finally figuring out that my best golf days are behind me, even though I still go hit balls a lot, you know, trying to always get better. But, you know, the age thing kind of taking its toll.
Tom, you mentioned your brother Paul, and I want to go back to when you guys were kids, because you guys both played baseball, basketball, and football. Your father was a good golfer. I read that he was a 2 or 3 handicap. So how did you guys end up playing golf over the other sports? Was it through the influence of your father?
Yeah, that had a big part of it for sure. He was a great man, very principled and stuff. And for me, I love baseball. But at that time I liked baseball better than I liked golf. But it came to me when after Little League, I skipped a couple leagues. So I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 playing with kids that are 15 and 16. And, you know, didn't get to play as much as I felt like I should have and all that stuff. And, you know, it just became to be, I wanted to be my own manager. I didn't want to have to take orders from somebody else. I could go out and play golf and be by myself and work hard and see, you know, fruits of labor where, you know, playing right field wasn't exactly, I mean, not say anything against right fielders, but, you know, that just wasn't what I played baseball for. So, it got to be where I just decided, you know, I like to be my own boss. And from that point on, it worked out great.
Tom, fast forwarding several years, you won the Arizona State Amateur in 1972. Talk about what it was like winning the biggest amateur event in your home state.
Well, you know, that's kind of always huge. It's like winning the Phoenix Open. I lived here and all that stuff. And for me back then, because my brother was older than I was, and he played, he was a great player. His amateur career was really good. And, there was a bunch of guys that I looked up to, in the state of Arizona, Dr. Ed Updegraff and, Howard Twitty and my brother and Joe Porter, a bunch of guys that, that I kind of looked up to at that point in time. And I'll never forget, it was at Paradise Valley Country Club, which was a great little golf course. And I was behind in so many matches until the finals that it was a grind. It's just one of those deals where you in your career, it's one of the things that you'd like to have in your repertoire of tournaments that you've won. I never played in the Arizona Open until I think the first time I played was 65 or something. I kind of felt like that was not really meant for tour players, but now I regret not having the Arizona Open as one of my wins. But anytime you're playing around your home in your home state and where your parents can watch, friends can watch it, it's a big deal.
Tom, you mentioned the word grind, and you had to go through Q school a few times. How did trying to get through Q school compare to playing out on tour, both in nerves and difficulty to try to make it all the way through?
Yeah, the tour school, as what I think Mac's been through it 17 times or something, but that's the grind of all grinds. That you've got 1 week, and if you don't play good that week, you're off for a whole year. I mean, obviously now there's a lot more opportunities for young players to play, but back then it was you either win. I mean, you either get one of the spots or you're done for the year. And my school back then, we had 2 schools, and I missed the first school I ever tried, and then played in Far East Tour, and then came home and made it through the next tour school. So it's something that nobody really wants to go through. But, there were 13 cards the year that I got through. And man, if you're not one of those 13, you're out of luck for a whole year. So it's a grind. I remember I went to a class that my friend, he came to be one of my best friends. Ed Grant had this thing called, subconscious golf. It was really about self-talk, and what you say to yourself on the golf course. And I'm pretty much all golfers can relate to, self-talk and whether it's going to help you or hurt you. And before I went to that class, it was always hurting. I was always giving myself grief about shots that I hit and stuff. But after that, I set some goals, and I think I finished second in the school. And I attribute it entirely to that class that I took on subconscious golf. So that was a big change for me. And it was always a struggle trying to keep my self-talk in check.
Let's fast forward a few years to 1977, and you went into the final round of the Tournament of Champions tied with Jack Nicklaus. What was it like going head-to-head with Jack in the final round of that tournament?
Well, Chris, do you think I was a little bit nervous? Playing with the greatest. And I had played with him, I think I'd played with him at Hilton Head. And I can't remember if that was before or after, but he couldn't have been nicer. I mean, he was a class guy, not much talk, but, if I hit a good shot, it was a good shot. And, I was kind of mesmerized, just being, thinking to myself, good grief, I'm playing with the greatest player of all time. So that was was a little distracting, but, he was always nice to me. And, I think I might have shot 1 over, 2 over the last day, and I think he shot, 3 or 4 under. So I ended up losing I think I lost by 2 or 3. So I had my chances. I remember coming down the last few holes and making a couple bogeys that hurt, but, it was just it was just such an experience to be able to play with him. And I feel, I got to say something about Mr. Weiskopf. I mourned his passing past week or 2 weeks, whatever. But, Tom was one of the, he was, I don't know what the word is, but he was so nice to me. Even when I first came out on tour, which is a little unusual. A lot of the guys weren't endearing to the the new guys coming out on tour, but Tom was always nice to me. And I think I think he had respect for, the way I swung the club. He was a big, he loved tradition, history. And, I remember playing before I even got on tour. I must have been like in college. I had a chance to play at Paradise Valley Country Club with he and J.C. Sneed and Ed Sneed. And, I just remember the thing that stuck out. He was so nice and so encouraging to me, that, I'll never forget that. One of the darkest moments I had on the golf course was I got paired with him at Augusta, first round, and I was part of the 13 on the 12th hole. That sticks out to me as one of the really dark moments of, because he was always in contention at Augusta every year, and to think that that wasn't going to happen now, that just because of that one hole. So, I have a lot of great memories about Tom, but to go back to Jack, he just couldn't have been nicer, and it was fun to watch him win, as always.
Tom, I want to get your thoughts on what we're seeing going on right now in the game of golf between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf. This is the biggest disruption in the game in my lifetime. What are your thoughts about what you're seeing right now?
Mine too, Chris. It's not good for professional golf. I don't think it's good for, and they keep saying, we're trying to grow the game, more free time away from golf at home with family and stuff. That's all hogwash. It's a money grab. It's an exhibition tour and a money grab. Tom GP had it right. Everything he said about, you find out who plays for championships and who plays for money. All these kids, I feel bad for all these kids, and I blame it on their leader, who, the tour is never going to negotiate with him. He's tried to do this before. He tried to, in the early 90s, he wanted to take, 30 of the best players on the PGA Tour and start another league. And, all the players shut him down. And it was obviously not as big a deal then it is now, but, now he's just got all this money to throw at these young kids. I just feel bad for these young kids, because you can't really say that the kids are doing something wrong. I mean, if somebody throws that much money in your face and go, hey, come on over here and play 8 times a year for this amount of money, or 14 times next year. And, I guarantee he's telling everybody, hey, you'll be able to play in PGA Tour events, and, that they can't kick you off of the tour and this and that. I guarantee you that's what he told them. And, I was kind of glad to see, and I don't know whether glad to see is the right word, but when those kids didn't get to play in the, down the stretch here in the Schwab, not the Schwab Cup, but the FedEx Cup. So I blame everything on him. And it's just unfortunate that these kids are being tempted by this huge amount of money. This thing today, all these great players that are supposed to sign up for LIV, I don't see it. Obviously Cam, but you know what? Somebody's going to take Cam's place. Really, has anybody ever heard of Cam Smith, 3 or 4 years ago? I don't think so.
Right.
So there's going to be somebody that's going to come in there and fill his shoes. I was so happy to see Hideki not, and 400 million, that's the number that I heard. 400 million. How do you, that really shows his want for a legacy. And I'm shocked that he didn't, take the money, but, it just shows that there are some guys with some, I don't want to say, but, to me, there's only one guy that I really enjoyed watching that's playing LIV, and that's Louis. I love watching him swing the club. So that's a little disheartening to see that he went. But again, it's all about the money. And I wish that just one guy, I saw where Cam today said it was about the money. I just wish one of these guys would say, I did it for the money. And we all know that if there wasn't money involved, either $1 million, $100 million of dollars, would anybody be playing LIV? No, absolutely not. They'd be playing PGA Tour. So, to finish what you said, and TP said it the best, it's whether you play for championships or whether you play for money. And in this day and age, and I get on Facebook and I read, some of these guys that, talk about, you would have done it for the money. And, I don't know. I tell you that I wouldn't have, but I would have liked to think that I wouldn't have. I would have liked to thought that, hey, I want to win tournaments. I want to win PGA. I grew up, thinking in the back of my mind, I want to play the PGA Tour. Of course, LIV was not around there, but around that back then. But, that was my focus. My focus was, and I guarantee you that's what all these young kids coming out of college, that's what they want to do too. But now with the money grab, it's changed, and it's changed, I think, professional golf forever. There's so many, like TP said, this shotgun start. My club championship here in Scottsdale, they send everybody off the first tee. And,
Is that right?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Well, I mean, like championship flight. If you're in the championship flight for the club championship here, everybody goes off the first tee. It's not a shotgun start. But I again, the guys that left today, I'm a little disappointed in Harold Varner. I think Michael Jordan told him, hey, don't go for the money. Kids, that you're going to get 100 million or 10 million or whatever it is to play in, a few golf tournaments. And I still think that though all these players are being told that, hey, we're going to win this suit against the PGA Tour and you'll be back playing the PGA Tour. So, I don't know. There's so many, and I haven't seen anything on drug testing. Are they going to drug test LIV or what? So, I don't know. It's frustrating because, of the money. There's just so much money being thrown at these young kids. I just feel bad for them. Well, I feel bad. I feel good for them because they're getting all this money, but at the same time, they're going to miss out on playing for, championships that mean something.
Tom, on this same topic, and you say that you would like to think that you wouldn't have gone. But if other players had gone, and this had happened in the 80s and the 90s when you're playing out on tour, but they had the opportunity to come back and play on the PGA Tour sometimes. Maybe it's just in the majors. You see a guy that you kind of were acquainted with, left the PGA Tour, took all the money, and went over to LIV, and now you're paired with that person in a U.S. Open or a PGA Championship. What would that have been like for you? Would you have been welcoming him back and, everything is just as it would have been otherwise? Or would that have been a difficult thing for you to deal with?
Well, it would be, there's such a divide in professional golf right now. That's the thing that really irks me the most. I mean, up until this LIV thing, I thought that the PGA Tour was in the best shape it's ever been. I still think it's in great shape. But there were so many good young kids that they were good guys and they played great golf. And you watch them and there's so much camaraderie. When one of those young kids wins, all their buddies are at the 18th green going, "Hey, way to go!" High five and fist pump and stuff. So that has kind of gone away a little bit, I think. Well, actually, even I think it's more so now. Non-LIV players versus LIV players. It's got to be disconcerting. It's in the back of every player's mind now, whether you're a LIV guy or whether you're a PGA Tour guy. I mean, it's just an incredible divide. It's like TP said, it's like the world we live in. There's such a divide right now about the life, about the way our country's going, and it's filtered into the PGA Tour. And I blame it on one guy. It's disconcerting. I can't tell you if I would have gone. I'm obviously, the money is a huge kicker, but for these guys, they're not going to have to worry about money for the rest of their lives playing the tour. They've got great pension plans, and they've played for so much money. If you played good at all, you've got the rest of your life made. So what do you do? To buy a bigger boat, buy a fancier car? Is that what it's all about? Again, the thing that gets me the most, I just feel bad for all these young kids that are getting, their opportunity to fulfill their dreams of winning PGA Tour tournaments is kind of taking it in the shorts. But
Tom, before I let you go, remind our listeners, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're doing, whether that's following you online or somewhere on social media? Well,
I'm LinkedIn, on Facebook. I don't do Twitter. So that's about it. I'm trying to spend less time on Facebook. Seems like that's kind of taken over. But anyway, tell Bob and Bruce. Bruce was always such a great guy to me too. We played a lot of rounds together on the PGA Tour, and he was always a great guy and fun to watch and a great player. So tell those guys I said hi, and TP, give my best to TP. And Chris, thanks for having me on the show. It's the best golf show going.
Well, thank you for that, Tom. It certainly means a great deal to me, as do you. Take care, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.
Okay, Chris. Thanks.
See you, Tom. That is the great Tom Purtzer. And you want to talk about just one of the great human beings on the planet. And then on top of that, a guy who had a golf swing that has been sought after and praised for many decades now. I can say on top of Ben Hogan, it might be the most sought after golf swing in the history of the game. and just a wonderful human being. I could listen to Tom tell stories all night long. I love having him as part of the show, a guy who's become very important to me over the last few years, and I certainly am looking forward to catching up with him again real soon. Before I get to my next guest, Bob Estes, I want to remind you about a couple more of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at 2 Under. 2 Under men's performance briefs have just released their new spring and summer 22 collections with fun, new, and exciting prints like the Freedom 2 and 3, Santa Fe, Tigers, Zebras, and Duckies. And their new exclusive Folds of Honor collection, where they donate 20% of all Folds of Honor sales proceeds to that cause. The patented Joey Pouch technology delivers maximum comfort, fit, and performance while preventing any unwanted skin-on-skin contact or chafing. Good for anything from the golf course, to the boardroom, to the bedroom. You can find these 2 Under performance briefs in over 4,000 golf pro shops nationwide, all Shield Sports stores, all PGA Tour superstores, Golf Galaxy, Dillard's, and other fine retailers near you. You can also order them online at 2under.com. That's the number 2, UNDR.com. 2 Under, performance in your pants. Use code NEXTT20, that's NXTTEE20, for a 20% discount on the 2 Under website. I also want to give a shout out to our friends over at Golf Pride. We deal with a lot on the golf course, whether you're teeing off in front of a crowd, hitting a 4-iron after a rain delay, trying to figure out wind direction, or second-guessing club selection. It's easy for your mind to race. That's exactly what drove Golf Pride to create the all-new CPX. It's made with a unique EXO diamond quilted pattern, reducing vibration in your hands on every shot. The EX diamond quilted pattern really helps your hands sink into the club on every shot, giving you maximum comfort, because when your hands are comfortable, you're comfortable. CPX is available now on golfpride.com or at your local retailer. Okay, now back in Next on the Tee with me is Champions Tour pro Bob Estes. Let me remind you about Bob's background. He's from Graham, Texas. In 1983, Bob won the Texas State High School Championship. Played his college golf at the University of Texas from 1984 to 1988, where he was a 3-time All-American and a 4-time All-Southwest Conference selection. He helped the Longhorns win 3 tournaments in the 1986-87 season and 3 more times in the 87-88 season. Bob won individual medalist honors 6 times while at Texas. He won the 1988 Haskins Award, which is presented annually to the most outstanding collegiate golfer in the nation. That year, Bob won the Texas State Amateur as well, and the Jack Nicklaus Award for being the College Player of the Year. In 1999, Bob was inducted into the University of Texas Hall of Honor. He joined the PGA Tour in 1989 and was named Rookie of the Year by Golf Magazine. He earned his first tour win at the 1994 Texas Open, going wire to wire, thanks in part to an opening round 62. Bob won 4 times on the PGA Tour. In addition to the Texas Open, he won the 2001 Invensys Classic in Las Vegas, the 2001 FedEx St. Jude Classic, and the 2002 Kemper Open. Over the course of his career, on top of those 4 wins, he has 12 runner-up finishes, 9 third-place finishes, 107 top 10s, and 240 top 25s. He's now playing out on the Champions Tour, and I'm very excited he is back with me again tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hey, Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Chris. Yeah, glad to be back.
Bob, I want to start by going back to when you were very young, because I read you started playing golf at the age of 4, and by the time you were 12, you decided you wanted to be a pro golfer. How'd you know at such a young age?
Well, I'd been playing tournaments and having success from a young age, and so, and watching the PGA Tour on television, I just knew that that's what I wanted to do. I was playing all the other sports up to that point as well, but I knew that golf is what I was going to pursue.
Talk about the other sports that you played, and because you were such a well-rounded athlete, do you think that helped you become such a good golfer?
Oh, I think it helped for sure, especially playing basketball through high school. We had a new coach my sophomore year of high school, and he was really tough. And he was in there to lay down the law and make sure that you knew who was boss. And he was a great coach, and he was really friendly after practice. But the practices were tough, and I learned all about hard work playing high school basketball.
Let's fast forward to your college days. And like I mentioned in your intro, you were a medalist 6 times at the University of Texas. You were named the College Player of the Year. Talk about your college days at UT.
Well, it's where I always wanted to go. My dad went to Texas. I had a cousin who pole vaulted at Texas for a little while before he transferred. We were playing the state high school tournament each year in Austin. And so I just, fell in love with Austin as well as, just kind of always having that UT influence, especially from my dad, like I mentioned. And so, it was a great 4 years. I wish we would have done better as a team, and I still could have done better as an individual as well. But, I when I first went there, I was hoping that we would, win conference championships, NCAA championships, but it didn't happen. But still had a really good golf coach in Jimmy Clayton that got me prepared to play the PGA Tour. So I'm still very thankful for him, bringing me to Texas.
Texas has such a rich history in golf. So many great players have come through there. Guys like Ben Crenshaw, Tom Kite, Brandel Chambly, Jordan Spieth, nowadays Scotty Scheffler, another recent great player, to name just a few of all the great ones that have come through there. Talk about the great players that have come through that program.
It is amazing. A lot of those players that you mentioned, of course, and there's many others, with Scotty Scheffler doing so well recently. And I'm not sure if you mentioned, Jordan Spieth or not, of course, but, everybody's enjoying watching him play as well. So, we've had that tradition for a long time. There's always been really good players coming through. The team hasn't always done as well, we had hoped, but, more great players. The Cootie brothers, just graduated, and they both won in the last couple of months. Cole Hammer, I'm sure, is going to make his mark in the game as well. And then, Travis Vick and Mason Nome, that are still in school and have a couple of years left, I believe. It'll be fun to see how they progress as well.
You get inducted into the Longhorns Hall of Honor in 1999. What was that like for you? What was that moment like to be able to stand up in front of your alma mater and get enshrined into their Hall of Honor?
Well, that was a long time ago, but it was very special. Having, won the Haskins Award and the Jack Nicklaus Award my senior year, being a 2-time first-team All-American those last 2 years. I guess I had an idea that I would get inducted at some point, but it was still it's something that I do value quite highly. Just like winning those awards that allowed me to get inducted into the Longhorn Hall of Honor. So that's something I'm very proud of.
Bob, I'm surprised that you already aren't in the state of Texas Golf Hall of Fame because of your success there at UT, all the things that you've achieved so far in your pro career. And when I see some of your contemporaries like Billy Ray Brown, Chad Campbell, Steve Elkington, Jeff Maggart, and Blaine McAllister I have to believe it's only a matter of time before you join them. Do you expect to be there one day?
Well, somebody has to nominate you first, and I was nominated, I think, for the first time last year. But it's interesting how they do it because they have it divided up. They have your, an amateur category, and they have a professional category in addition to the other two, including, a legacy club, where I'm not for sure. I just went blank on the fourth one. But anyway, they divide up, they separate your professional career from your amateur career. And, I've had a solid amateur career and a pretty solid professional career. So if you combine them, you would think that I would probably be in there, but I think it just has to do with, what the nominating criteria are. So I'm not too worried about it, but maybe someday.
Let's switch gears and talk about this season that you've had out on the Champions Tour. A really good one. You had a top 15 at the Color Guard Classic with a nice final round 65, a fourth place finish at the Rapsican Systems Classic with a second round 64. You had the share of the lead in the opening round in the Senior PGA Championship with another great round of 64. How do you feel about how things have gone so far in 22?
Well, I have shot some low scores, like you mentioned, and I had that one chance to win in Mississippi when I ended up finishing fourth. But Stephen Alker just blitzed us on the back nine and ran off and left us. It's been a pretty rough year for the most part for different reasons. Mainly I just haven't played well enough. I needed to hit it better at times, and of course other times I needed to putt better. I've missed some tournaments for different reasons. I did lose my father back in July. I was overseas at the Open Championship. He'd been struggling for a while, and I was a little bit hesitant to go, but I knew that I might have to get on the plane and hustle back home. At any moment. I was definitely planning on going back home to Abilene right after I got back home from the Open Championship or the Senior Open at Glen Eagles. But when I got up on Thursday morning, I received a text from my mom saying that my dad had taken a turn for the worse, and it was probably time to come home. So I wasn't able to get on the flight that day, but I was first thing the next morning. Flew back home to Austin, drove to Abilene the next day, and he passed away about 24 hours later. So, it's been a rough year, mainly because of that. And then I've missed a few other tournaments because of bad allergies and, where the pollen was really high, certain places that we've gone, and maybe places where I haven't really struggled in the past, but just happened to this year. Actually, I had to withdraw from the tournament this past week. I'm at the Ally. I played the 2 weeks before, had no issues in Snoqualmie up in the Seattle area. And then the next week at the Dick's Sporting Goods Open, the ragweed pollen was high, tree pollen was up, and I was struggling, but I pushed through. But then this past week, it got even worse. And I was doing my warm-up on Friday morning in the gym at the hotel before going to the course, which was just a few minutes away, and I couldn't even finish my warm-up. So I got really dizzy, and I was lightheaded. I had to go back up to the room and lay down. Got up a couple more times to move around and see if the dizziness was going to go away, and it didn't. And so, and it was only supposed to get worse over the next couple of days as far as the pollen levels. And so I decided it was probably best to go ahead and let somebody else have my spot. But, I missed a few I missed the Regents Tradition, which was very disappointing. My game was in pretty good shape at the time. I had taken the week off to get ready for that one. But it seems like everything was high at that time of the year in the spring in Birmingham, Alabama. And I got worse and worse every day. By, Thursday morning, I couldn't hardly stay upright. So I missed that one as well. So yeah, it's been a pretty tough year, and yeah, my game is pretty good. We talked about it. I've shot some low scores and played some other really good rounds where I just didn't quite get the score. But overall, it's been pretty frustrating. But there's still tournaments coming up, so hopefully I'll be able to play well and make it all the way to the Schwab Cup finals in Phoenix at the end.
Bob, one more before I let you go, and obviously the big topic around the game of golf right now is LIV Golf. Want to get your thoughts. How do you feel about what you're seeing?
Well, just like, you've had other guests talk about, it's very divisive and it's changing every day and every week, it seems like. I did listen to your interview with Ron Cross because I just wanted to hear what he had to say about the whole situation. And yeah, it is disappointing to see a lot of players leave the PGA Tour and go to LIV when, I would rather see them play on the PGA Tour and see how they progress. And we'll have to wait and see how things play out as far as
the official world golf rankings, the major championships. Will these players be strictly playing for money, for the rest of their careers, or will they somehow, some way still be able to qualify and play in major championships? When Ron was talking about the team aspect and franchises, I didn't quite follow exactly what all he was saying there. You might have a better understanding of that than I do, but I'm still not sure that team aspect each week interests people as much as individual performances. So again, we'll just kind of have to wait and see how this all plays out. I've got a feeling that a lot of the players were maybe somewhat misled, and that they were probably going to still be able to have their cake and eat it too. Maybe play the LIV and still play tournaments on PGA Tour and the DP World Tour, and still be able to play and qualify for the majors. I guess, well, I'm like most everybody else. I'm just kind of watching to see what happens. And because of that court date not taking place, if I understand all that correctly, until January of 2024, I guess we're going to have to wait quite a while to see what happens regarding all that.
Bob, I want to get a playing lesson from you before I let you go. And you're one of the best putters out on tour. You're averaging 1.589 putts per hole, which is good for 5th on the Champions Tour, and 28.6 putts per round, which is 4th on tour. What's your key to being such a great putter?
Well, one thing that I had to change at some point to be a more consistent putter was I had to go left-hand low. I'm not perfectly symmetrical. And when I had Dave Pelz take a look at me many, many years ago, he said, you're built to putt left-hand low. And I know he's a, pretty big proponent of that as well, or at least whatever allows you to, make a straighter back and straighter through stroke. But I had to go left-hand low to improve my mechanics. I've always had good putt, good speed control, and, that also comes from hours and hours of practice, especially as we go from course to course and different kinds of grasses and things like that. But in particular, I had to get more consistent as far as getting the ball started on my line. So I use a kind of a reverse, I guess it's an overlap, left-hand low, and that allows me to get my shoulders aligned more properly, and I guess my forearms as well. But yeah, I had to get more consistent at getting the ball started on line to become a better putter.
Bob, before I let you go, remind our listeners, how can they stay up to date with all the great things you're out there achieving, whether it's online or it's on social media?
Well, obviously, what's interesting is you say that. I know you're talking more about social media, but what a lot of people don't realize is that every tournament rounds or every round that we play on the Champions Tour is televised, either by the Golf Channel, and it's not always live. Sometimes it's tape delayed, but network television for a lot of the majors, we're kind of beyond that now for 2022. But I'm surprised that so many people don't realize that every round that we play is televised. That particular day, maybe not live, but they might be taped and shown later that evening. But as far as social media, I'm not on Instagram as much as I'm on Twitter, but Instagram, Bob A. Estes, and then Bob Estes PGA or Estes PGA on Twitter.
Well, Bob, I can't thank you enough for coming back and being a part of the show again tonight. I'm rooting hard for you as you guys make the run for the Charles Schwab Cup. I'm looking forward to watching you in the finals. In between now and then, stay safe, my friend. All the best to you and your family. I hope we get the privilege of having you back on the show again real soon.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris.
Take care, Bob.
That is the great Bob Estes, and I can't thank Bob enough for being generous with his time tonight, coming back and being a part of the show. Tonight was the 5th time I've had the privilege of having Bob here I'm rooting very hard for him as he makes the run towards the Charles Schwab Cup. Hopefully we see him in the finals here in a few weeks, and just a great guy. And there's no question that he is going to be in the State of Texas Golf Hall of Fame at some point. He had a great college career, fantastic out on the PGA Tour, knocking it out of the park on the Champions Tour. There's no question he belongs in that Hall of Fame, and I'm sure we're going to see him in there real soon. Before I get to my next guest, Bruce Devlin, I want to mention a couple more of our sponsors, starting with our friends over at Srixon Cleveland Golf. Your best performance starts with the right golf ball at Srixon. A global leader in golf ball technology and innovation, Srixon offers a wide variety of award-winning golf balls for golfers of every skill level. Whether you're searching for a tour performance golf ball or a distance golf ball with incredible feel, Srixon provides the best golf balls at incredible prices. Srixon offers a wide variety of personalized options while also developing a highly visible colored golf ball as well. Select the right golf ball for your game today and trust it with Srixon. Check them out online at Srixon.com. Srixon.com. Find the right golf ball for your game today. I also want to remind you about our friends over at Sun Mountain. There's a company nestled in the valley of Missoula, Montana, that embodies the essence of quality, function, and innovation, and that's Sun Mountain, which started building golf bags back in 1981. They are an industry leader in golf bags, travel covers, outerwear, and push carts. With flagship products that you've come to know, like the C130 cart bag, the 2.5 ultralight stand bag, the Club Glider travel cover, the Speed Cart, and Rainflex rain gear. Sun Mountain continues its quest to provide the very best in golf products to every range of golfer. Visit them online at sunmountaingolf.com to look at their amazing product. Okay, now next on the tee with me is Bruce Devlin. Let me give you some background on Bruce. He was born in Armidale, Australia. He won the 1959 Australian Amateur Championship. He turned pro in 1961, joined the PGA Tour in 1962, and won 8 times from 1964 to 1972. He also won once out on the Champions Tour. He is one of only 4 players to make a double eagle at the Masters. He did so holing a 4-wood on the par 5 8th hole in 1967. He played in 61 majors on the PGA Tour, made the cut 51 of those times, and had 16 top 10 finishes. He had 31 professional wins in all. His last win on the PGA Tour came at the 1983 New Zealand Shell Open at 46 years of age. He was 57 when he beat Dave Eichelberger in a playoff to win the FHP Healthcare Classic on the Champions Tour. Bruce retired from competitive golf in 1998 to focus on his golf course design business. He's designed over 150 courses around the world. His courses have hosted several professional golf tournaments on all tours. Bruce is also one of the all-time great broadcasters. He worked for NBC and ESPN, and I am thrilled he is with me tonight here on Next on the Tee. Hi, Bruce. Thanks for coming on the show.
Well, you're welcome, Chris. Glad to be with you, sir.
Bruce, I want to start our time tonight by going back all the way when you were growing up in Australia. I'm curious, when did you start playing golf, and who was the first person to put a golf club in your hands?
Well, I never had any aspirations to play golf. I can assure you of that. I grew up in a little town of about 15,000 people, and we had 3 Olympians hockey players. So we had a lot of young teams around our little town, and we played field hockey day and night. And, I mean, that's the only thing I ever wanted to do. And then, unfortunately, my dad, who liked to play golf, he was about a 20 handicap, a left-hander. He had a bad automobile accident, lost his right arm, and then when he come home and rehab, he said, you know, I still want to play golf, and I need somebody to come play with me, and I've nominated you. So that's how I got into golf. I went with my dad when he wanted to play with one arm. Interestingly, I said he was a 20 handicapper with 2 arms. He'd become a 14 handicapper with 1 arm. Quite remarkable.
Wow. Yes. So at what point in your life did you finally say, you know what, I'm pretty good at this golf thing?
Well, I was doing pretty good on amateur events, and one particular weekend I I couldn't get back to school until Monday morning, and I walked in, and of course, the first teacher I saw was the head of the Christian Brothers school that I went to, and he said to me, Mr. Devlin, you got two choices. You can stay here and do your studies, or you can go and play golf. I said, well, thank you, sir. I'll go play golf. So I picked up my bags and went home. And when I got home, my dad was there having morning tea with my mother, and he said, what the hell are you doing home? And I told him the story. He said, okay, go get your overalls on. You're going to go work as a plumber. And that's what I did. I worked with him, and then I went through technical college, become a master plumber, and worked with him for about 5 or 6 years until I did a couple of silly things. I won the New South Wales Amateur Championship in 58, the Australian Amateur in 59, and then the Australian Open as an amateur in 1960. And then my good friend and coach at that time, Norman Bono, I come home from work one day, actually, and he was in my kitchen with my wife, convincing her to convince me to turn pro, and that's how it all happened.
And like you mentioned, you win the Australian Amateur Championship in 1959 by defeating Jack Coogan 2-up at Royal Sydney. 2 years earlier in 57, you finished runner-up to Barry Warren. Talk about the close call and then coming back 2 years later and winning it all.
Yeah, well, Barry Warren beat me in Melbourne, and that was a big shock for me because I was sort of considered the favorite, I guess, and he just putted the eyes out of it for 36 holes. I just couldn't get the job done. I ended up losing to him, and then fortunately at Royal Sydney, a couple of years later, I was able to win the amateur, which was very, very nice.
You won 19 times on the Australian-New Zealand circuit. You had to be achieving like rock star status in Australia. What was life like for you as you're racking up all those wins?
Well, back in the early days, it's not like it is today. I used to, after I turned pro and came over here in 1962 to Augusta for my first tournament as a pro, I couldn't go back home. I could not go back home and support, my tour there. And in those days, we never got paid a penny to go back. We just went back and played for the prize money. Things have changed a little bit since then, obviously. But yeah, I always have enjoyed my golf in my home country. But I must say that, that's one thing that if you want to play against the best in the world, you have to come over here to the United States.
You get your first PGA Tour victory at the St. Petersburg Open Invitational in 1964. You win that event by 4 strokes over Dan Sykes. What do you remember about getting your first win out there on the PGA Tour?
Oh, I remember being on the practice tee on Wednesday afternoon after the Pro-Am, and I was complaining to my good friend Jack Nicklaus, whom I come over here actually in 1960 and played the amateur, stayed with him in Columbus, and we traveled together to St. Louis. But yeah, I was complaining to him Wednesday afternoon that I couldn't drive the ball, and I said, would you, spend some time with me on the driving range? And he spent some time with me on the driving range, and I went out, and I think I ended up beating him by 6 shots. And he promised me that was the last lesson I'd ever get from him. So that was the thing that stuck in my mind more than anything else, that my good friend gave me a lesson and I whooped him.
That's great.
A couple of weeks later, you're at the 1964 Masters. You're in second place, 5 strokes behind Arnold Palmer going into the final round. What was it like being in that position, and what was it like trying to chase down Arnold Palmer?
Well, I started the last round off pretty good. I started birdie at 1, birdie at 2, birdie at 3, and I was not actually playing with Arnold. I was playing with Gary Player. And I was 3 under after 3, and I hit a beautiful iron shot at the 4th hole, and I come up just a little bit short, sort of dropped into the bunker about 15, 20 feet from the hole, and Gary hit it on the back left corner of the green, and then putted it 8 foot by, and then putted another 4 foot by. And cut a long story short, he 4 putted before I got to play a bunker shot. And and I made a bogey. I hit a beautiful bunker shot out about 3 feet and missed it. I don't know whether I was upset with him for what happened, but anyhow, I ended up finishing 4th that year. But there for a moment, I thought I might have caught the big boy, but he went on to win. What a great player.
A few years later, in 1968, you're right back in the thick of things at the Masters. This time, you work your way into a share of the lead pretty quickly in the 4th round, with birdies at 2 and 3, and you and Roberto DiVincenzo are in a battle early in the round, and then Bob Golby and Bert Yancey would join that battle on the back 9. Take us inside what that final round was like.
Well, like you said, I got off to a pretty good start there, but, I guess most of the time at Augusta in particular, if you miss the hole on the wrong side, your chances of making a putt are very slim, and the opportunity to 3-putt becomes more prevalent. But the thing I remember most about 1968 was the Saturday. I went to the 11th hole with a 3-shot lead Saturday, and I hit a beautiful drive, and I hit what I thought was an absolutely perfect 6-iron to the green at 11 with a short flag. And I didn't quite carry it far enough, and it hit on the downslope just short of the green and kicked left, and it went in the water. And I made about a 25-footer for an 8, which obviously blew my lead quickly. But then I made a couple of birdies coming back in, and like you said, started off pretty good Sunday. But just I guess that particular major was about like all of them. I just couldn't quite get it across the finishing line.
Let's rewind 1 year back to 1967, and you hit one of the all-time great shots in golf. You make double eagle on the 8th hole at Augusta National. What do you remember about that shot?
Well, I was playing with Doug Sanders, and I didn't get off to a very good start. I was a couple over par, and then I hit my drive at 8 in the right rough. Oh, well, the first cut, actually, not in the rough. And I had a beautiful lie. And it was the first year they changed the green. And, the best way from the right-hand side for me to get into that green was to hit a fairly good-sized hook. And I did. I hit a beautiful, hard-running forward that hooked about 15 yards. And my dad was with me that year, and he was up on top of the hill. I knew it hit a pretty good shot. And the next thing I see him jumping up and down, I thought, oh boy, that's got to be really close. And then, the Bush Wireless got back to me in about 4 seconds and said, no, it's not close. You hold it. So that was pretty special. Sort of.
You mentioned your relationship.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go right ahead.
No, I was going to say it's interesting that Saracen did it 35 and then took another 32 years before I did it. And then our friend from the Woodlands, oh God, I've lost his name now. He did it in 93, and then Oosthuizen. Yeah, he did it in 2002, I think, at the second hole. But 4 double eagles, all at the different par 5, which is quite remarkable.
You mentioned your relationship with Jack Nicklaus, and you were right in the thick of the majors during the prime of Jack Nicklaus's career. Talk about what it was like playing against Jack in the 60s and 70s.
Well, like I said, I first came over here. I was picked again in the Australian team to play in the Eisenhower Cup matches at Marion in 1960. And I got an opportunity to come and go to Columbus and got to meet Jack there. And we spent about 4 or 5 days practicing with Jack Grout and then drove down to St. Louis. And we really become very good friends. And then in 1964, he came back to Australia with me, and we played a lot of exhibitions there together. And then we got to the Australian Open again and played at the Lakes Golf Club. And cut a long story short, I had to make par at the last hole, a par 5, and I chose to lay it up short of the green about 70 yards and hit a pitch shot in there. And I hit a beautiful pitch shot in there, but it had too much spin, and I spun it back off the front of the green, and pitched it up, missed it from about 6 feet, so he and I tied. And then, of course, the next day he put a little 67 to my 69, so that was a Australian Open that got away from me.
You won 8 times on the PGA Tour over the 8-year period from 1964 to 1972. That was the heyday of the Big Three. Billy Casper was also a very dominant player during that time. He actually wrote a book titled The Big Three and Me. Didn't you earn a seat at that table as well?
Well, I had a nice career there during that particular part of my career on the tour, and at the same time, as you mentioned earlier, I had gotten into the architectural business with my partner Robert Von Hage, and we started building golf courses basically around the world. And I think that, my wife always tells me, you should never have got into that architecture so early. You should have stuck to playing golf. And maybe she was right, but it was pretty hard to do both things.
Speaking of Billy Casper, you bested him by a stroke to win the Carling World Open in 1966, which was played at Royal Birkdale. That had to have a feel of a major championship since where it was played at an outstanding course like Royal Birkdale. Talk about winning that tournament.
Yeah, that was a great event to win there. I love Birkdale. It's a great golf course. It's to best Billy Casper. It's a bit of a feather in your hat, particularly when I had played with him the year before in the Western Open, the last 2 rounds, because we were playing 36 holes on Saturday back in those days, and I played with Cass for the last 2 rounds in Chicago, and I went home to my wife on the Saturday night, and I said, you know something, I'm not sure that I need to be in this business. I played with a guy today that I just can't believe how good a player he is, and I'm not sure I could ever beat him. So it was fun to win at Royal Birkdale, and because they were tournaments that you had to qualify for, sort of like a World Golf Championship in one respect. But it was a great victory. Thank you.
You had a lot of success playing in the state of Texas. 3 of your tour wins came there. What was it about Texas golf that suited your game so well?
Oh, I don't know, but probably the way I grew up. The little town that I grew up in had plenty of wind. It was you had to learn how to flight your ball properly, and I think that probably was the reason why I played so well in Texas.
You played so well there. You were inducted into the Texas Golf Hall of Fame in 2014. What was it like when you got that call, and what was it like being recognized like that by the state of Texas?
Quite an honor, sir. Quite an honor to be in the Texas Golf Hall of Fame. Yes, it's a great organization, and as we all know now, they've just moved from San Antonio, and now they're part of the PGA. They're up in Frisco in Texas. So we're looking forward to when that all gets built and is up and running. So it'll be a lot of fun.
We're a few weeks away from this year's President's Cup matches. You teamed with David Graham to win the World Cup matches in 1970. You guys beat Roberto Di Vincenzo and Vicente Fernandez to capture that team title. I envision that being sort of a President's Cup of that time. What was it like teaming with David Graham and winning that event?
Yeah, that was a great victory for us. We were a couple of young guys back in those days, and of course Roberto was the king, and to do it in his hometown with Vicente was nice to beat those guys. And I believe David David made a birdie on the last hole, ended up being the low stroke player too for the tournament. So it was a success all the way around.
You were one of the very best broadcasters in the game in the 70s and 80s. What made you give broadcasting a try?
Well, I missed the cut at Westchester one year, and I can't remember the name of the organization, the television group at that time, but the guy that was the producer for the golf tournament that weekend got a message to me and said, Bruce, seeing that you missed the cut, would you like to spend a couple of hours or an hour or so in the booth on Saturday and Sunday? And I thought, well, what am I going to do? I might as well. So I did that, and then at the end of that year, I got a call from NBC to see if I had an interest in going to work for them, which I did. So that was how I got started. I did a little sit-in for 2 days in Westchester, New York.
You've got your own podcast now, For the Good of the Game with Mike Gonzalez. Talk about your show.
Oh, well, I tell you, Mike Gonzalez come up with that idea, and to be quite honest with you, we've had a lot of fun with it. I'll just run down a few stats for you. We've interviewed 50 of the World Golf Hall of Fame and major championship winners, 43 men and 7 women. The men have won, the men are, there's 31 in the World Golf Hall of Fame and the women 23, and we've interviewed 21 of those 54. And, we've interviewed 13 Masters winners who've won 23 times, 14 US Open winners that have won 22 Open, 12 Open Championship winners that have won 21 Open. So it's been a lot of fun. And the last couple of months, we've moved over to bring the ladies in, major winners in World Golf Hall of Famers. We started off with Kathy Whitworth and Laura Davies, and we plan on going as far as we can until I get a call from who. At my age, it'll come a lot quicker than probably Mike. But no, Chris, it has been fun. It's been a lot of fun, to be honest with you. When Mike Gonzalez asked me, he said, Bruce, you've had such a wonderful relationship with all the guys you played against. I think we could make a good deal out of this podcasting. Well, and for your information, Chris, I'm not sure if anybody's told you, but we are negotiating with the World Golf Hall of Fame, the PGA of America, and the USGA to archive all of our major championship and World Golf Hall of Fame golf, both men and women. So we're doing this for nothing. Mike and I agreed we won't make a penny out of it. So if we can get these archived for the kids that come along 30 and 40 years from now and say, oh, gee, who is this Jack Nicklaus? And, if they could press the button and listen to Jack tell his life story, we think that'd be worth it.
Absolutely, it will be. Bruce, one more before I let you go. And like I mentioned in your intro, you've designed over 150 golf courses worldwide. Talk about your design business. Well, for about 17 years there, I was with my partner, and then he and I ended up splitting up in the mid-90s, and then I started to do it on my own. I guess it's hard to pick favorites of golf courses that you built, but the golf course that I built down in Beaufort, South Carolina, called Secession, is one of my favorites. And then I built a golf course at St Andrews, really, in Scotland. And, that's not the easiest place in the world to build a golf course and get people to talk about it, but it's at the Fairmont Hotel. It's called Kiddick's Den, and it's a fun golf course to play. It sits right on the escarpment of the bay coming out of St Andrews. So, yeah, we built a lot of golf courses around the world, Australia, most of them here in the United States, but it was a rewarding, great number of years, to be quite honest with you. I had a lot of fun doing it. Well, Bruce, how can our listeners stay up to date with all the great things you're doing, whether that's following you online or over social media? Yeah,
well, I have a family foundation called the Devlin Foundation, and we hold a golf tournament in Beaufort for junior golf. We raise a lot of money for junior golf. And it's the DevlinFoundation.org. And of course, you can always get to me through For the Good of the Game.
Well, Bruce, it was a huge thrill having you as part of the show tonight. I hope we get the privilege of having you come back and share more of your stories and insights with us. And I hope that time is very soon.
Well, thank you, Chris. It's been an honor to be on your show. I'm sorry it took us a little while to get to do it, but it's been a lot of fun. And yeah, let's do it again sometime. I'd appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Me too. Thank you so much, Bruce, for being here tonight. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to us catching up again soon.
Thanks, sir. Bye.
That is the great Bruce Devlin, folks. Boy, it just doesn't get much better than that. I can't thank him enough for being generous with his time and being a part of the show tonight. The DevlinFoundation.org is the website for his foundation. And Beaufort, South Carolina, boy, I can't wait to get over there and check out his golf course, Succession. That, I'm sure, is fantastic. But again, one of the greatest players in the history of the game, and then a great broadcaster on top of that. And so many stories. I'm sure I could sit there and listen to him tell stories all night long. I hope I really get the privilege of having him back on the show again soon. And by soon, I mean very soon. All right, folks, it is time for me to put a bow on this episode of Next on the Tee. My sincere thanks again to Tom Patri, Tom Purtzer, Bob Estes, and Bruce Devlin for joining me tonight. Next week, scheduled to join me are former PGA Tour pro Neil Lancaster will be making his Next on the Tee debut, as will former LPGA Major champion Julie Inkster. Really looking forward to having Julie as part of the show. And our friend Chris Finn from Par for Success will be back. So it's going to be a great show, folks. I hope you come back and be a part of it with us. You can listen to this show as a podcast on just about every major podcasting site and app, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podcast.co, Audio Boom, Player.fm, Podbean. Folks, if you have a favorite podcasting site or app, just type in Next on the Tee in the search bar. We're probably on that one too. Please check out our website, nextonthetee.net, to see what our upcoming guest schedule looks like. Plus, we've got links for you there for recent episodes and individual guest segments. So whether you've got 20 minutes or 2 hours, we've got great content on there available for you for free. Folks, thank you again for choosing to listen to this show tonight. I know there are a lot of great golf podcasts out there for you to choose from. I am very thankful that you're making Next on the Tee one of them. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.